This is the ACS Group Multi-Bin Warehouse Management, the new Location Replenishment Dashboard. Located on the Inventory Maintenance main menu, it gives us the ability to set up batches for transfers. I can select the replenishment type and go through the different settings we have. It replaces our primary bin location replenishment, so I can do the calculation, have it on the screen, edit the calculations that are done, print new transfer sheets for both picking and put away, and even transfer the inventory. I could do the same for directed put away from the purchase order receiving bin locations for those goods that I produce for bill of materials, staging locations for bill of materials and work order. I can set up transfers to certain zones in my warehouse or any groups of bin locations. I can set up, create my own transfers from other transfers. I can, for example, create a save transfer, edit as desired, keep it as long as I want, but yet access it and edit it still using this option for my transfers. So in my example here, I'll select the primary bin location replenishment, and I will call this primary replenishment for today. And then over here, we need to select our source bin locations and inventory to look at. And then I'm going to select the inventory that's in my 00 warehouse. The other setting to do is where the inventory must go. And so I'm going to select the warehouse 000, and this is where the inventory will land. I could have selected any number of warehouses in it, and it could be compatible with that, and that's just fine. Other options that we provide here is to exclude or include certain areas of your warehouse by location types. By default, I have excluding the staging locations. So for primary bin location replenishment, typically we're rotating inventory from overflow, perhaps other pick locations, into primary pick locations. And then viewing our inventory restrictions that we have by bin locations, we can choose to exclude inventory that might be held, disabled inventory. So I can choose to include or exclude inventory based on these options. The next step after selecting where it's going to look for inventory and where the inventory must go, I'll hit the calculate, and it will go ahead and perform the regular calculations that we've had in ACS Multi-Bin Warehouse Management. It's look for primary bin location replenishment. It's looking at the replenishment points that we have set up by item and the capacity setups by bin location also. In this case, it's recommending these transfers from these locations to these primary bin locations here and these quantities. I can choose to edit, include, and exclude whatever I desire. And in this case, I deleted those two, that lotted item. Note for lot serial goods, and for those users that using license plate, I don't have to select on the source side or on the left-hand side here the actual lot numbers or pallet ID numbers. Okay, so after doing the calculate and editing this as desired, then I can review the exceptions log. This will show me exceptions that it did notate. Perhaps there are locations that didn't need replenishment, or there was not sufficient inventory to replenish. You'll see that later when we're doing our own transfer, the log can be useful to see what kind of changes it made when doing a transfer when it's evaluating the quantity available and the capacity of locations too. So anyway, the log is there. Then we provide the new wave pick sheet. This is both for picking inventory and putting goods away. So for wave picking for primary bin locations, it's going through, and the wave pick sheet is going to give me all the locations in the order that I desire to pick my inventory. It's recommending that I go in this order through my warehouse and then pick this inventory and this quantity. And then for the put away goods, I can also produce a new wave pick sheet, and this is in bin location order. In my case, these are primary bin locations, and it's recommending putting goods in these locations. Of course, I can go ahead and edit that and then come back in here and then make changes to it, to the dashboard, and then I can do the transfer. I can do the transfer in a couple ways. I can do the transfer by putting transactions or the transfers into inventory transaction entry, or I can do a quick transfer, which is the immediate transfer while retaining the audit trail of who transferred it. And then the last option over here is to create a standard transfer, and we'll do that in a little bit after we do a return directed put away for goods and receiving. So that's it. So if you had printed a wave pick sheet or wave put away sheet, you could have used the RF handheld to scan the goods and the goods would have moved, or once again you come back in here and edit this as appropriate and did the transfer. This time I'm going to go ahead and create another transfer, and I'm going to do a directed put away for those goods that are sitting in my receiving bin location. Looking at my inventory in the receiving bin location currently, these are all the goods that have been received. Note that there's some inventory is on hold, and that's because I want it on hold and I don't want it to transfer yet. And this is a current feature in the system, or long-standing feature in the system of putting goods on hold or not. I also have the setup so it's going to look at my inventory in the quality control location, and that's because I have the setting for the region code. So where you set up the staging locations, you can put in the staging location and this region code, and it will tie the two together, and you can have any number of bin locations set up for the directed put away. So back to my screen here for directed put away. This is going to be a put away for my goods in purchase order receiving on this date. And then this is my source warehouse, my destination warehouse. Note that I've selected PO receiving, and it's changed the areas of the warehouse that it's going to be looking at. Previously, for primary bin location, it excluded staging locations. Now it's included staging locations and the regular pick area for where it's going to look for inventory to pick. Obviously, it's just going to pull goods from the receiving bin locations. I hit the calculate, and this is the recommended transfer that it's going to make for this put away, directed put away. Once again, I can come in here and edit this as desired. By selecting this and deleting them, I can include, exclude, and of course edit the quantities to be transferred. I can review the log for any exceptions, and once again I can produce a wave pick sheet for the goods to be picked and put away. In this case, it's pulling goods only from the quality and receiving bin locations, staging locations. So what would be more practical is produce a put away report, and this is a nice put away report advising the transfers to these locations. And then I could go ahead and do the transfer. I'm going to do a quick transfer, which means it's going to take the inventory immediately out of my receiving dock, move the goods to the new location, and retain a full audit trail. So I hit transfer, went ahead and made the transfer. So I'm going to pull that back up here, and note that it's tracked the fact that it's made the transfer. It did keep this put away transaction in here, so for later use if I decide to. And then if I go back into my receiving bin location, well, this one's quality, and note that there's the only inventory that's left into the quality bin location is the inventory that's held. As promised, there's a full audit trail of the inventory that's been moved out of here. In this case, it was just this one item that went to two different bin locations, ARS 9201, looking at this screen, then went over to shipping and A20M. I think it went to shipping in this case because it was advising transfer for a back order that was in the system. And then to look at the receiving bin location, This is all the inventory that's been transferred out, pardon me, and this is all the inventory that's been held, and that's left sitting in the bin location, and the rest is moved to the new bin locations already. And then, of course, if I were to go into inventory maintenance, I can view the inventory in its into its new location. I transferred this inventory, the 254 LK, into A30M, A30U, and shipping. If I pull up that inventory here, the 254 LK, we can see the inventories now in those primary bin locations here. That was A30M, 30U, and shipping, which was probably for a back order also. And review the audit trail, and by viewing the audit trail by item, I can see the minuses and the positives of the inventory coming out of the receiving dock and into the primary bin locations in this case, and the shipping dock. So that's my transfer. It's complete. Had I used the RF handheld once again, I could have done the transfer that way. So now what we want to do is create a standard transfer so that we can reuse that as we want. I'll exit here and select the previous transfer that we had set up for the primary bin location replenishment. Now what I'll do is I'll select the Create Standard option. This gives me the ability to create a regular transfer that I can reuse as I desire. It's giving me the option to copy the quantities over or not. In this case, I will. And now I have this standard transfer that's in the system. And I'll call that Save Transfer. And so this is left in the system as desired. And I can edit these quantities as desired. So this could have been 10,000, but because it's not checking the quantity available as I'm doing this, because this is just a save transfer. But in this case, I'll just leave 10. And let's say this is a regular transfer that I want to do, moving inventory from B10M to these two bin locations. I'm going to take out some of these other ones here. I'll take out this one and the serialized item here, down here. And note, since this is a lot serial here, there's no regard to worry about lot serial numbers. And then what I'll do, I can, of course, add items in here. I could have selected the ARS 9201, looked up inventory. By the way, when you look up inventory like this, I can review all my available inventory just like that. And then a destination bin location. And the quantity to be transferred. So this is my standard transfer, and I'll uncheck this so it doesn't evaluate the capacity of location there. So this is a standard transfer just for reuse later. And now it's in the system, and now I can choose to create my transfer. I'll select the My Transfer, and the copy option will come up here, and I can choose to select the Save Transfer that is right here. It's giving me the option to copy the quantities, and I do want that. And so now, from that template, that standard transfer, now I have the ability to reuse that and do my own transfer as desired. I'll name this as a replenishment for 923 second time. How about that? And then the next step will be to do a calculate. When I do a calculate in a My Transfer, it will go through and evaluate the quantity available and the capacity of the destination locations. Any exceptions it will notate. Had I not hit the calculate and I just moved along, it would have done that function automatically. I can click the log and see what it did. And it says here A20L is less than the destination capacity of 0 of the 325 set to transfer, and that was for the 2480 here item, and it's saying that I can't transfer all the inventory for the 2480 item, and see how it brought it down to 0 for these two items here because there was insufficient quantity available to transfer and the destination location was full. Now what I can do is go ahead and generate my regular pick sheets to pick my inventory, as well as my put away sheets. And now I could choose to do the transfer. In this case, I'll go ahead and do an inventory transaction transfer to show the transfer of that inventory. Now, I went ahead and created the transaction entry. So in this example, it's now sitting in transaction entry. We put a remark there for the transfer. The inventory is reserved while it's sitting here in transaction entry. And of course, to move this inventory, I need to run the register and update it. And that is the full example, the full cycle. These saved transfers are out here to reuse as desired. I can create my own transfers again from the saved transfers or what happened, or delete them as desired. So once again, this is a new feature that's available to everyone on ACS Multi-Bin Warehouse Management. It's good for versions 5.0 and 5.1. And we appreciate your time, and contact us if you have any questions. Thank you very much.